What is good, all you cool cats and kittens? This is your Commissioner Tim back at it again with the Week 8 Power Rankings. I got to record this again just because the first one that I did not record the audio. So it was just me just blabbering away without any audio. So got to do it again, but got to stay faithful and committed to getting the videos done. So as promised, here we are. I'm going to start off by looking at week standings after week 7. We've got 3 teams now sitting at 5-2, tied for first, and Bills Mafia sitting in fourth by himself at 4-3. We got 2 teams a game behind, sitting at 3-4 between Trust the Process and Ben, with Chota behind that 2-5, and John still sitting in the season with just 1 game to his team. Looking over at points for, it's sort of clear the top 5 teams sort of emerging in its path. And you'll see sort of the top 5 grouped up here, as well as the max points for, where the same top 5 teams are sort of clumped up together, probably with a little bit more separation than the bottom 3 teams now. Yeah, I mean, I say this, and it's incredible that my team is here because I honestly thought I'd be at the bottom of the league. But like I said in the recap video, hey man, I'll take what I can get. This has been a great sort of admirable performance to start of the season so far for my young prospects, and they're all seemingly sort of budding into superstardom quicker than I realized. So here we are. And I'm going to move over into power rankings. We got Half Chubb moving down a spot to 8. He had the bad league lowest scoring total for week 7, and also a loss. And then I'm going to move Chota 1 up, where even though he came with the loss, he did score a respectable 130 plus points for the week. And then I'm going to move Ben down a spot from the defeat to Trust a Process in week 7. And that means that I'm going to move myself up to this 5th position. Like I said, I think between Ben and Trust the Process, for Ben, the next 3 weeks are going to be really, really interesting. And then I think, however, he's able to do that, if he's going 2-1 over the next 3 weeks, then he really controls his own destiny from week 10, from week 11, 12, 13, and then he faces me in week 14. And for me, I'm sitting at 5. Again, same as Ben, contending for that 4th seed for playoffs. I have to win this matchup against Adam this upcoming week in order for me to really establish a potential strong push for a playoff seeding coming into this sort of second half of the season now. All right, so over at 4, we got everyone that's moved a spot this week. Actually, there's not a single team that's stayed in the same spot. Got Bills Mafia moving down a spot. The only other 4 playoff favorites to record a loss, albeit that came against another playoff team who was ranked previously at the #1 spot in the Cup to Canada. I've got Bills Mafia moving down, given that he also scored looks like the league's 5th best scoring output last week, and then obviously lost to Cup to Canada in a pretty close, tight matchup. I'm going to also move down Cup to Canada, even though he came out with the victory. So did the other 2 teams that I haven't mentioned yet, but it was a pretty disappointing week for a Cup to Canada. And obviously, there's concern sort of lying regarding what's going to happen to Tua now that he just feels like he's figured out this, QB2 position. Now he's rumored to be traded away, and Deshaun Watson maybe potentially coming to Miami. So who knows what kind of position Tua is going to end up in and how he's going to be able to perform, especially after having to probably learn a complete new playbook if he gets traded, even if he ends up getting the QB1 reps that he probably will once he does get traded to a different team if Deshaun Watson is to make it over into Miami. But the concerning point of why I moved Cup to Canada down 2 spots versus maybe 1, or even staying intact beyond the scoring output, was the emergence of Khalil Herbert that I mentioned during the recap video. This directly affects David Montgomery. Now, it's more than likely that David Montgomery will still be able to get his RB1 type of numbers, in terms of the Bears backfield. I don't imagine it's going to be a running back by committee by any means, like what we saw with the Jets early on the season and the Bucks early in the season. But you got to wonder, is David Montgomery, I think he's averaging something like 18 carries or so, or touches a week. With the emergence of Khalil Herbert, who's been more efficient from a game number standpoint, and given that it was their draft pick, albeit it was a 6th round pick, does Khalil Herbert start to take snaps away from David Montgomery. And if that does happen, even if it's just 5 snaps, then that's production that's taken away from a really important running back position, RB2, that Cup to Canada really had to rely on. And with Josh Jacobs also now dealing with a chest contusion, maybe potentially missing a couple games. Who knows? But these were unexpected things that I did not expect Cup to Canada to have to go through. Um, Events really out of left field that's really happened, unpredictable for the most part. But it's really leaving him short potentially at a QB2. I'm looking at his roster now, QB2, RB2, and we'll see what happens. But thankfully, he does have all of his flex basically utilized as running back, so he should be able to fill some in. Whether it's Josh Jacobs when he comes back, or maybe Odell Beckham Jr. is able to sort of start performing again. But outside of that, there really isn't that much of talent that you can sort of plug in that's going to be able to take away from a lot of the plays that he's had. Now, granted, he's got Devontae, Adams, who's out because of COVID, and he's likely going to be missing another week because of the Week 13 buys. Anyways, for all those reasons, with really the emergence of Khalil Herbert potentially taken away from David Montgomery and Josh Jacobs' injury, plus with him scoring the league's, barely sneak out a win against Bills Mafia in a very low-scoring matchup between the two, I've moved him down 2 spots, sitting at 3. Over to 2, I've got Brady third dynasty jumping up 2 spots after a great strong week last week. I think scoring the second or the third highest at 155 for week 7. He's got good players. I think Ryan is now actively sort of chatting with other managers about potential trades. So certainly as we gear towards the second half of the season, I'm excited to see what kind of moves Ryan continues to sort of make to solidify himself in this position. Like I said in the recap video, I do think that Brady's third dynasty, as well as Cup to Canada, really have locked in that playoff seed for the most part, just because of the strength of schedule that's coming up for them. And I think they're both going to be able to get to, again, that 8 weeks within the next 4 weeks or so. All right, over at number 1, I have a new top leader at the Washington Fantasy Football Team. Congrats, Adam. It's good to see you at the top. I think you're maybe the number 1, week 2 or something like that. But take it where credit's due. I think Adam's team has performed really well over the last few weeks. Started off the season a little slow, but all of his team, for the most part, has really performed because largely, in part, due to the strength of Derrick Henry. And with Alvin Kamara being able to perform the way that he's done, and I think contrary to some other sort of folks and a lot of what experts sort of say online, I actually don't see Michael Thomas returning as a negative for Alvin Kamara. If anything, I think it helps raise Alvin Kamara's floor. Albeit you can make the argument that might limit his ceiling. Sure, when you got another sort of top tier talent coming in, part of the offense, that's going to share pieces and opportunities away. But right now, the offense for the Saints is just running through this one gear that is Alvin Kamara. There's no multi dimensions to it. They can't throw downfield. Marcus Callaway was supposed to be someone that was really having a breakout season after a somewhat slow but promising rookie season. But with both Henry and Kamara performing the way they are and the way that I expect them to perform for the rest of the season, he has obviously the number 1 running back and potentially another one in top 3 in Alvin Kamara, especially with the injuries to Saquon and Christian McCaffrey that we've already seen this season, with question marks on how they've performed once they're back. So I've got Washington Fantasy Football Team sitting at number 1 heading into week 8. We are now officially in the second half of the season, boys. Looking forward to seeing you guys on Thursday, Sunday, and Monday. Peace, boys.